Hello there, Margarita Alcantara here. Welcome to the Rise Up with Margarita show. And every week on Mondays at 2 p.m., I cover a different topic. And today's topic is 5 ways to overcome camera shyness as an empowered light worker. And so this is a really important topic because I get this question a lot from light workers who are really looking to show up in higher service, who are ready and willing to really just explode and just really share their light in the world in a bigger way. And you do that through showing up and in a visual, auditory way as well. So, if you haven't met me yet, my name is Margarita Alcantara, and I help leaders. I'm a leader of leaders claiming their power. So, I create visibility for conscious leaders to shift the paradigm of power and awaken the planet. And so, every single week, I cover a different topic that will help you rise up into that understanding of your power and your light in a bigger way. Because the whole thing is that sometimes people say, well, I'm already in my power, which is awesome if that's you. And there's always the next level of mastery and opening into the next level of your power. So today's topic, as I mentioned earlier, is 5 ways to overcome camera shyness as an empowered light worker. And so I'm going to share why light workers get to be visible in a bigger way right now, the mindset shift required to show up and be consistent. My visibility story, how I began, since I know, obviously I didn't start off, looking and appearing confident on video and camera and things like that. And so I'm going to share a little bit about my journey, and then, where I am at now, and then also some of the tools I use to be visible and, those 5 ways of how to overcome that camera shyness. And if there's time at the end, I'll open it up for some questions. So here's why light workers get to be visible in a bigger way right now. So the main reason is because it's time to show up in service as a light worker, and all the things that we incarnated on the planet to do, which is our specific transformation that we provide in the world, because our purpose is not just only to heal or to help people, right? It gets to be really specific because you have a unique purpose that not other light workers have. And so that's what I mean by your purpose. And so when you have a purpose as a light worker, it is your job and your responsibility to show up in the world. And, sure, you can choose not to show up as a leader of light and choose not to be visible, and that's fine, because that's definitely a choice. And my work is really to help those who are inspired by really resonating with that aspect of showing up as a leader in the world, because that's really what we're being called forward to do. And so when you want to be of service and you want to make a difference in the world, that doesn't happen just because you wish it so, right? Like if I heard all those tools that, they're like, okay, yeah, I'll just burn some incense and it's going to all that visibility is going to happen for me, or I'm going to, draw from my tarot deck and it's all going to happen for me, right? It actually doesn't work that way. It actually happens by actually, I'm going to go into that a little bit more later in terms of the steps and how you get to open up into that. But it doesn't come from just putting it out into the universe, which light workers are notorious for saying, but not really taking any action around. And so that's really what today's live is going to be about, to really share with you what it takes to really be visible as a light worker. And it's not that you need to be perfect, because it's not that. I'm certainly not perfect. And no one who's actually showing up on camera or video is, right? Otherwise, they'd all be ascended beings by now, right? And not even on this planet. But here's what you get to do. You get to make a difference. I mean, that's why you're here anyway. That's why you're feeling that calling from your higher self, right? Is I'm here for a bigger purpose, is what you're thinking. And the truth is that you're right. And so in order to really get connected to being visible, you must first get connected with leading in service, because that's actually the biggest mindset shift that is required in order to be visible, to show up and be consistent when you are being visible as a light worker, is that you must really lead with service rather than your fears. And what I mean by that is rather than saying, oh no, I can't do that because I'm afraid what people may say about me, or they're going to judge me harshly, or they're going to make fun of me, or they're going to ridicule me, or, if they're really saying what they're really fearful of, I'm afraid I'm going to get burned at the stake again. I'm afraid I'm going to be, whatever, right? It's usually from a past life situation that is still unhealed, that is still resonating and vibrating in this lifetime because we haven't done that inner work to shift that, right? So, in order to show up in service rather than your fears, you must first make that decision to accept your power, because that's probably one of the number one reasons why light workers are so afraid of other people not accepting what they have to say. Is because, first of all, no one has to accept what you have to say. Not everyone agrees with what I say, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't mean that I'm unworthy. It doesn't mean that, whatever emotional story that people like to make about why people might have a judgment on what they're sharing, because that's not what it's about, right? It's really about showing up in service rather than, oh, I'm afraid people are going to say this thing to me, or they're going to say this thing at me, or I'm going to get trolled, or whatever. And here's the thing, spoiler alert, there are going to be people who don't like what you have to say. And like I said, you don't need to get caught up in that, and you don't need to make an emotional story about it, about you being unworthy or unlovable, or, this just confirms that I'm not supposed to be doing this, or any of that nonsense, right? Because the reality is that that is just part of being visible. And the more visible you are, and the more followers you get, you are going to get more of those, vast array of people. And some of them are not going to be your people, and usually those are the people who are going to say something, and say you're nuts or you're crazy. And that's another thing that light workers are really concerned about is, I don't want to look like I'm crazy. And here's the thing, who cares what they think, right? I thought you were here to break the status quo, and yet you're here with, I don't want them to think that I'm crazy, right? So it's like, I mean, can you see the interesting dichotomy there? Because when you really are here to break the status quo, and I have a strong feeling that you are, then it is up to you to not make your being visible about you. And what I mean by that is, like what I said before, I'm afraid they're going to say this about me. I'm afraid people will see me as crazy, or they're going to think I'm woo. First of all, if you're using the word woo, then you haven't fully accepted your power, right? You haven't fully accepted your abilities, your power as a light worker, your magic, in the world. And so that would be one of the first things, if you want to transmute that fear, is to really be in full, genuine acceptance of your abilities and your light and your power, right? Because you can't fake, well, you can fake for a little bit. You can fake for a little bit showing up in service if you are still in your fears, right? But people can feel that from a mile away, even if they're not like really in touch with themselves or really awakened yet, right? They can, people can pick up when someone's not genuine. And people, because light workers are smart that way. Light workers most of the time are trusting their intuition, and when they do, they get an intuitive hit immediately, right? And so if you are out of alignment with yourself, meaning that you still believe you're this fraud, you shouldn't be on camera, you have nothing to share, you're unlovable, you're unworthy, all that emotional baggage that is really lies, okay? If you're still believing any of that stuff, then you get to clear that up first and then show up and be in service. And so when I say lead in service, I mean you are not making it about you. Not to say that you're not afraid, okay? That's not what I'm saying. Or that it doesn't feel weird or scary. I mean, I'll give you my visibility story in a moment, and I was like the furthest thing from, being completely fearless when I first started my Facebook lives, because back in the day that was the main thing, right? And then Instagram joined in with these types of lives also. So leading with service means that even if you are scared, even if you are afraid that you might get judged, that you put that fear in the back seat, but definitely not in the driver's seat, right? Because that's you and that's your service that gets to drive. And then leading in service from that place of who can I help? Who can I help today? Right? And it doesn't matter, if you don't even have really any followers, because that's not even the point. If you even have one follower, show up for that one follower, right? And if you're here, that means you're showing up on Instagram and Facebook, and that means that you've got maybe at least one follower. We can safely say that, right? And so it doesn't matter how many followers you've got. Like that's, like the whole purpose of showing up in visibility is not to like be an influencer or to like, have so many followers, right? And I know that it is desirable, like let's say on Instagram, for instance, people refer to that whole thing of like, when I get 10,000 followers, then I'll start making impact. That's not the case. You can make an impact from the get-go. And the faster that you connect with that and understand that, the faster that you're actually going to help people. So don't wait until you have like, 500, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 followers to show up in a big way. Because even if you have one person following you, if you change that person's life by you being visible, it is all worth it. And here's the secret about that, is that when you lead with that and who can I help, then you actually grow organically, exponentially from that. And so, I don't recommend any of this other stuff that some people do, which is like the follow to unfollow, which means that maybe you follow someone and then you unfollow them afterwards after they possibly follow you. I mean, it's just so much nonsense, right? And sure, you can grow that way, but then you can always tell if a person has stepped in that way, by doing follow for follow or paying for followers, which is, some people do that. I don't do that, right? Or the follow to unfollow. I think that's ridiculous. So, I mean, I don't mince words, so you'll know what I think pretty quickly. So, when you actually just lead with service and focus on helping one person with whatever you're going to share, whatever that post is, that live, that video, focus on one person, because even that's also the secret. I'm just going to say it briefly, right? That's also a secret to really connecting with people, is that you don't say, hey everyone, or like, hey y'all, I know that you all are feeling such and such, right? Because then the other person, like, I mean, you probably just felt it right now, right? Like, I'm not like, I mean, I'm just like one of the masses. I mean, that's how it feels like when you talk to people like that, right? So you say, I'm sharing this with you because you're really having a conversation, and that's really what the priority is. That's what social media is. That's what all these videos are about. You are there to connect with people, to let them know you can help them and how. Okay, so that's why this mindset shift of leading with service rather than your fears of judgment and ridicule and things that people might say about you or to you, right? And lead with service instead by showing up, making those videos, making your courses, your content, even getting the support that you need so you can show up in a bigger way, right? So leading with service, that's what that looks like, with the intention to make a difference in someone's life. Not so that you can be viral and you can get famous, right? Because if that's your intention, you need to rethink your purpose. So in regards to how I began, right? Like, I mean, some people see me live and they're like, oh, okay, so she looks very natural or whatever, people are thinking. And the truth is, I did not start off this way. I have a background in performance art. But that has like, it almost like that had nothing to do with me showing up in this way, because believe me, and I know I'm not the only one, because I've actually been on phone calls with some light workers who have been visible in many other ways. Sometimes they too were in performance art or something like that, right? But the reality is that when you are showing up on your purpose as a light worker, that is way different than doing a script, than doing something that's written either by yourself or someone else that you then get to perform, and it's something that is memorized or whatever. That's way different than showing up on a video and talking about your experience and talking about what you've gone through in order to, you know, be this amazing person you are today, right? And why you're even showing up in the first place, and why you're here to help, and how you're here to help. That is really vulnerable, and that's really what's scary. It's not even really me on video or, that kind of thing. So here's how that began. So, okay, so I was a performance artist and all the other things, right? Before all this, and I was in the music industry and all that. And I do bring some of that into my content, with the music I choose and the rocker stuff that I choose to do sometimes, right? But 4 years ago, my coach um, said to do a Facebook Live. And not that I was foreign to Facebook Lives, I dibbled here and dabbled there, right? But she was like, you need to come out of your starseed closet and talk about how you are this Syrian starseed who is here to help humanity raise the consciousness of their vibration, that, all this stuff about you being a conduit between the Star Nation and Mother Gaia, which I have been for many lifetimes. I've been on this planet, I don't know, since the beginning, maybe. So, I'm kind of ancient in that way. So I don't really even get into the whole human age thing. So that said, she's like, okay, not only do that, but I encourage you to start doing activations, right? Because I mean, like, she already knew I could do activations, and I kind of knew that I could do that, but the activations that I do are so kind of like new. People were not really doing them in a big way like they do, like Reiki and other spiritual healing modalities, which I'm also very familiar with because I'm also a Reiki master teacher, a licensed acupuncturist, and also I became initiated as a medicine woman. So I do source all of these things, and it's really, really important. I'm seeing some comments here. Kalum is saying, you totally inspire me to tell my story. So glad to hear that. And Elisa says, hi, I'm from Italy. Hey there. I don't even know what time it is over there. I think it might be evening, right? Over here, we are fighting against the Matrix and the old powers. Yes, we are almost in a civil war. Please pray for us and send some light. Thank you. Yes. And Annalisa, so much love to you. And here's the thing. It's not just in Italy. I'm not going to, I have a whole thing around this whole spiritual war, right? Because we are in that. So the thing is that, that's why it's imperative for you to get visible, right? Because I mean, you get to make your impact, and especially we are being called forward to make that impact now, not 10 years from now, not 5 years from now, but now. And that is why I'm here showing up on this Facebook Live, right? And so that's an example of, what you get to experience in terms of the urgency, right? In terms of the urgency of your message. And that's what your visibility is really about. It's about the urgency of your power, the urgency of your light needing to be, up there, out there in the open and shared with people. So getting back to this story around my visibility, when she said, oh yeah, and you should totally do activations live. And so not only, come out as a star seed, possibly in my mind back then, possibly ostracize my entire family, all of my childhood friends, because again, here's that old thinking, right? Is that I'm thinking that that's my audience, and it's not, right? My parents would not be my ideal clients. So that was my thought, and I was like, I would rather poke a hot fork in my eye than be live on Facebook doing any of that, right? And I think I actually kind of said that to my coach. But I mean, I'm highly coachable, and that's what you also get to be when you really want to, rise higher and do greater work, is that you get to just transform through this, right? So because I am highly coachable in that way, and I know what's best for me, and I trust my intuition very quickly, very immediately, I don't question it anymore. like I used to when I was much younger. So I was just like, okay, let's do this thing. Let's do the damn thing. And so I did. Came all out as a starseed, about my mission, about how I'm this conduit, and really all the things are going to come up for you when you are going to be visible. You're going to be like, who am I to be saying that I'm this and that, right? Because and I know I'm not the only one who went through that, right? Because I hear some of that when I get on phone calls with some light workers, and they're like, but who am I to be doing this? Like, isn't that like really me being full of myself and all that? And it's not. There's a difference between being full of yourself and you claiming who you really are and actually showing up in the world as that. Okay. And so yeah, so where I'm at now is that, I'm leading my programs, I'm on videos every week, I'm, batching reels every week, doing my weekly Rise Up show on, in a simulcast on Facebook and Instagram like I'm doing today. And I just show up and I'm like leading summits also, and I'm on summits. And in fact, I'll be on two this week, one of them of which is live. And if you want more information about that, check out my posts from over the weekend because I give you some information on that. And so that's what starts to happen when you lead with service, is that you really start making impact and you start being seen and heard. And the truth is, sure, you can try making your impact in your visibility from being visible, invisible, and not showing up in the world, right? Or if you're really here to lead a movement of life, that of light and life, and really create change in the world and make impact, then you need to be visible. I mean, that's just the way it is, right? And 1111 Mayday says, exactly, I feel that way. Who am I? I need to practice showing up. Yeah, it's like, the whole who am I thing, you need to really just fully accept yourself, right? That's really what that's all about. And if you are still in that mode of, who am I to be doing this? This is ridiculous. I'm afraid of what other people are going to say. Start with accepting fully who you are, genuinely, truly, completely, without, as long as it doesn't look like this, like then you're putting conditions, right? That's not unconditional, that's conditional. So I'm also going to show you some of the tools I use. And I guess I'll, share with it when I get to this part. But here is what you get to do. So here are the 5 ways to overcome camera shyness as an empowered light worker, one of which we spoke about already, which is lead with service. That is number 1, first and foremost, lead with service when you are a light worker trying to be visible. Number 2, show your face, my loves, show your face. Stop putting, your favorite plate as your avatar, right? Or putting like your pet as your avatar, or putting nothing on your avatar. Or, because I see this so much, is like there are a lot of light workers and they have, profiles and accounts, but and I'm also going to just put a reminder because I'm seeing some questions here. I'm focusing on the topic today, which is the 5 ways to overcome camera shyness as an empowered light worker, and the questions I'm going to be answering are going to be connected to that. So when you do have an account on social media, you want to make sure that you're visible. So instead of having your profile be private, because some of you have that, right? Make it public, okay? And have your face seen in your feed. And it doesn't have to be in every single photo, right? Although that certainly helps in every single post, right? But at least in your videos, show your face in your feed instead of some title card, right? Because I see some light workers do that. And then put an actual photo of you in your avatar. So, don't put flowers, don't put your pet, don't put someone or something else, or a picture of you from very, very far away, right? A headshot, all right? And I know that some of you are like, oh my God, a headshot? Yes, a headshot. So it doesn't have to be professional, it can be a selfie, Honestly, I have a lot of professional photos done, but one of the photos I'm really using right now for my profile on Instagram even is something I did a selfie of after I got my hair did on, right? So, because it looked good. So, hey, I'm going to use that photo. And so it doesn't have to be professional, but just, be, in a state where you're having eye contact, like some of these things are very tiny, but it's really, really important to have that. And so that's very, very important. That's why it's number two. Number three, have the right lighting. So if you're all shaded up and no one can see your face, it's people are going to swipe past that, right? Like people are not going to even pay attention to that because they can't even see you, right? So make sure that people can see you. And so even I've seen people do this even in their cars during daytime where they have adequate natural lighting and that looks awesome, right? You don't need to be professional. You don't need to invest thousands and thousands of dollars in tools, right? But I am going to show you something that does help. So I'm actually looking up right now because I'm looking at my ring light. So I do use a ring light that's actually, I don't know how many inches it is. It's kind of like this wide in terms of circumference. And you just kind of want to put that behind your camera or your computer. For me, since, just giving you a little behind the scenes here, because I do a simulcast that's on Facebook and Instagram for my lives, then I actually put the ring light behind my desktop computer. And that way it illuminates me for both simulcasts. And also I use that same ring light for my reels. So some of the reels that you might be seeing, the little, up to 30-second video, I should say, not 30 minutes, those short video forms, I do that using that ring light. But sometimes I want to switch it up and change it up, right? So I have a smaller ring light that is also very powerful, and this one I can show you because I can't show you the ring light that I'm currently using. So this is kind of like a travel ring light, right? And you see how tiny it is, and it looks tiny, but you can actually make it higher by using these things here. You can go like that and extend it, right? And all this cord stuff, this is so you can plug it in, right? And what you can see here with this light is that it's got a mount for your phone. And you do want one that lets you do it up and down. And you can just simply adjust because I think you can make it landscape or portrait size, right? And then at the top it has this ring light. And this is actually a very powerful ring light, even though it's kind of tiny. And it comes with this remote control. I don't know if you can see it. And so you can actually turn it on and you can have it have different lighting spectrums. So like a warmer lighting setting or a warmer lighting setting or a colder lighting setting, depending on your, what you think looks best on you. And you can also make it more dim or more bright and that kind of thing. So that is really awesome. I actually use this when you see me not in front of the desktop, which is where I'm at right now. And so that would be very, very helpful. So make sure you have the right lighting, but like I said, natural lighting is really awesome too. And because then it's, it's very soft and diffused and it's really pretty. Number four, use your voice. So this is so, so important because when you are showing up in visibility, a lot of light workers will only do things where they don't have to use their voice, or there are a lot of reels, and I know I do some of those too, where you point or you do lip syncs and things like that. And it's really funny because once you just really get in the mode with it, like people actually think your lip syncs are actually you, because I've had people make that mistake a lot. So you want to also have moments where you're actually using your voice. And what I mean by that is that you're just like now, for instance, right? Like I'm doing this live where I'm using my voice. And because here's the thing around that is very different from, let's say, like some business person sharing with you about how to like show up on social media, right? Because I'm talking about the vibration that people can feel from you. So when you are showing up on video, and when even people just see your face, especially if you're at a higher level of vibration, but just in general, across the board, people can feel your energy. And if you're a light worker, that's really, really important. And so that's the same thing with your voice. When you speak, you actually carry the transmission through your voice, through the vibration coming from your vocal cords. Okay. And, so that's why this is really, really, important to keep in mind. Um, and I see a question here, so I'm going to get back to that. Ease, flow, joy. Just had a good question, and we're going to speak into that in a moment. But when you speak and use your truth, then people can actually feel that vibration. When you're a light worker and you do healing work, and especially if you use certain modalities and you've already cultivated a certain vibration by this time, your vibration can be felt and heard. And for some people, if they're highly intuitive, even seen. Because that's actually something that happens with me. Just to give you an example, not to, because I want to talk about myself, but just because I want to share with you my experience that illustrates my point around how it impacts people. So, for instance, there have been more than 2 times where, whether they're a client coming in for a treatment, or they're, a patient coming in for a treatment, or a client for power activation work and mentorship work. But when I'm doing that work and I'm in my mode and I'm actually performing the power activation, for instance, people actually say that, like, how do they put it? You actually looked blue when you were doing that activation, or you looked like a blue bird, right? And actually, part of my starseed lineage is that I'm blue avian. So that makes sense, right? And I'm also Syrian, and my star family, they are kind of like that darker blue, purplish kind of color. So that makes a lot of sense, right? So that's what happens when you are really in your vibration, when you're really showing up on purpose, right? People can feel it and they can see it if they're highly intuitive. So that was number 4, use your voice. And number 5, so important, game changer, don't overthink your content. Don't overthink it. Prioritize showing up messy instead of being perfect. Because you've heard me say this often, is that, perfection is another way of procrastination. If you're too worried about being perfect, whether it be like, I don't know, what you're wearing, what you're doing with your hair, the tech you're using, all of that stuff, then you're going to totally miss out on showing up in service. That's another way of allowing your fears to show up and lead you rather than you leading in service, right? Is like, oh no, I'm not perfect, or I'm not perfectly healed, right? In order to do this work, you don't need to be perfectly healed. I mean, you don't need to be a hot mess either, because if you're still in a high triggered state, and you're really not doing well, and you're really in an heightened emotional state, work on that first, right? But that said, you do not need to be healed or in perfect condition, whatever that means, in order for you to show up in the world. You just need to show up. Because not once has someone ever said to me, Margarita, I'm not going to enroll in anything you have to say because your hair looks weird. Or because, I don't know, your makeup is off today. Like, no one says any of that to me. I mean, there have been moments where I've done lives and my hair is like, because my hair is curly, and sometimes it just like does things, right? And so, like, I show up and I'm like, I just smooth that puppy down, and like, let's go. So don't overthink your content. Showing up messy is better than showing up perfect. Because if you are worried about perfect, and by all means, don't put out crappy stuff, right? Because you're showing up messy. Meaning that you're not just like putting something that's not intentional or that's not conscious out there, right? But just don't overthink it. Like, believe me, the only person who's going to really be like, oh my God, the kerning between those 2 letters were off in that post or in that infographic, or, like, I can't believe she did this in her video, right? Most people are not saying that. that's usually coming from your own inner dialogue. And so that's why doing the inner work is so, so important versus being dependent on what other people are saying. Because that's another thing. If you are dependent on what other people are saying, especially random strangers, then you need to rethink your strategy about showing up in visibility, because you should not be doing it based on what random strangers may or may not say to you. And that's why the leading and service is so important. So when you're not overthinking your content, you're like, good enough is better than perfect, right? You don't want to be perfect because, like I said before, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. So just show up messy, show up authentic, and because that's really what connects you with people anyway. If you are too busy with being like, no, I must be perfect and perfectly healed and everything about me needs to be perfect, there's actually a deeper thing under that belief. And that deeper thing is an issue around worthiness, right? Because if you're like many people, especially women, we've been conditioned to be like, only speak when you're spoken to, uh, polite, children don't say anything or don't speak up. Um, or like with women, you're conditioned to be perfect, otherwise you're not acceptable, right? And like, I mean, I was just like, F that, like already, like many, many years ago. So I haven't been functioning from that for a long time already. But the truth is that um, there's a worthiness piece if you are really concerned about showing up and about what other people are going to say to you, because there's two things going on there. You haven't accepted who you are, and or um, you've got issues around you needing to be perfect, which is obviously not true. So that's the five ways to overcome camera shyness. And also, before I recap, let me give you a bonus tip. You look into the lens, not at your face in your camera. Okay, so right now, like for instance, I'm looking straight into the lens of my phone for Instagram, right? And so when I'm looking there versus looking here, right? Because right now I'm looking at myself. And you can see that there's a little weird disconnect, right? But if I'm looking at the lens, then it makes so much more of a difference, right? And same thing with Facebook. If I'm looking at the lens, then, I'm connecting with you. If I'm looking at myself in the camera of my Facebook page, then, it's kind of like, who is she talking to? It kind of doesn't make sense. It's like, and this whole thing is about connection, like I said. It's all about connection, connecting with people, creating relationships. That's what you're really doing on social media. You're not there to go viral. Okay, I mean, it's nice and, maybe it gives you a little dopamine hit. And I've had my share of viral, videos, but that is not the purpose of being on social media. So just to recap, lead with service, show your face in your social media feed and avatar, website and offers, and your feed. 3, have the right lighting. And 4, use your voice. And I'm going to show you another tool about that one in a moment. And 5, don't overthink your content. And then the bonus tip was look into the lens, not into your face and the camera lens, like in the camera, right? So what you can also use, I don't use this very often. I only use it when I'm kind of far away from my camera, but you can also use a mic. And so because I'm able to project my voice, I don't often use that. And also because actually I'm a little lazy that way. You can use a mic. This is like called a Lav Mic or a lavalier. That's what the whole name is. And it's that clip-on mic that you see people use like when they're, like on a news show or something like that. And literally you put it under whatever shirt you have. And right now I'm not going to do it just to save time. And then you just clip it here. And that's not the way you clip it on either, because it's all that stuff's hanging out. This is not how I would do it normally, right? But this is the placement of it. So that way it is not like in with my jewelry, because it would be problematic if it was maybe like right here and I had like tons of necklaces, for instance, that would not be a good idea because then you'd be hearing clicking and clacking all over that mic. So anyway, so this is something that I do use when I'm kind of farther away from the camera, or it's really important for me to get clear sound. But to be honest, when I am recording things such as MP3 activations, which I do for my private clients on a monthly basis, I actually just use my voice memo on my iPhone because actually that creates really clear sound. So anyway, this lavalier, which has an extension so I can put it into my iPhone because it doesn't come with that. So as you see, it just comes with a headphone thing. But you know, Apple's a little special, so they need their own little socket, which is why I've got this lightning adapter thing. So anyway, this is a Rode mic. This is the little pouch that it came in, right? So this is Rode, and they have a really good quality just in general. But I just have this, I think mine was called Lavalier Rode Plus or something like that. And so it's just kind of a basic one. You can get it on Amazon, which is where I got mine. And I got this more travel sized version of my ring light with mount on Amazon too. This was like 20 bucks or something or less. And it's really light. You can see, right? That ring light, which is actually a Diva ring light, it's like more heavy duty, and that thing does not get moved. So anyway, so those are some of the tools. And then someone had a good question here. Thanks for your tips. How did you start with getting followers on your social media? So here's the thing is that I did mention a little bit about my journey, but in terms of getting followers, just showing up, just showing up. Starting with like, I mean, if you actually look at the beginning of my feed, especially on Instagram, and look at the very beginnings, it's like, what the heck was I thinking? What was I thinking? Right? It's like all the things that I'm telling you not what to do, I did it all. But that's because I didn't know any better. But now you do. And so now you get to do something more than what I did at the beginning. And so, you know, that looks like, especially on social media right now, video is really gets you out to more people. And on Instagram, Reels are actually getting pushed out to the forefront by Instagram now. So you would want to probably start with Reels, but any type of video, short-term video, a little longer term, something that you can put on IGTV, although now I think that it's no longer IGTV, it might be something else now. I think they just call it IG video now, and they're just kind of merging all the video stuff together. So you want to probably do a little bit more video because they're kind of moving away from only static post, which is very like, you know, 2000, 1999 or whatever, you know, I don't even know if Instagram, when Instagram started, but anyway, the whole thing is that you want to do a little bit more video than static posts, but you do want to kind of show up, you know, in the first place, just period. And that might even be with like a, you know, show like a photo showing your face. Maybe you're doing some of your modality, you know, and saying, hey, my name is Margarita, I do blah, 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 and I help such and such, you know, transform such and such into this and that, right? And that's kind of like a really short form of, you know, sharing what you do and sharing what your purpose is. Because your purpose is not your healing work. Your purpose is not Reiki, right? Your purpose is transforming people's lives. So that's really what you want to kind of lead with. And so I would recommend if you're just starting out, and I mean, you know, starting with video is kind of like a, you know, a tall order if you're like just starting out. And I know that that's scary, but you can start with doing like on Instagram, for instance, you could do an IG story, you know, because those things go away after 24 hours. So you can just be like, hey, I just wanted to pop up on Instagram and show up in my stories and tell you not really about yourself, but just be like, you can talk about what you do, how it impacts people, how it helps people, that kind of thing. And that's always a good like first post, like here's why I'm here. I'm here because I'm being called forward by my higher self to really lead this movement in the world. And talk a little bit more about that, and then start doing some videos too, little by little. Like, I mean, you probably won't feel comfortable doing the whole shebang like from the get-go, but you can get started with some short IG stories that disappear after 24 hours. You can do like maybe a short 3-minute video saying, just introducing yourself and why you're showing up on social media, in which case you're really talking about your vision. So I hope that helps. Okay. Actually, I was mentioning 2000 or 1999, right? And I hear you, says this, the singing tarot says it's scary showing your face. It can be at first, but here's the thing: the more you do anything, the easier it gets. Not to say like you're gonna be like by the second video you're all like, hey, I'm all here, right? Like you're not gonna be, maybe, like, I mean, I'm not gonna say that's impossible, but it's not likely you're gonna be like that. But you want to just start, and again, start messy. Just start with something um small, something that disappears very quickly, like IGTV. So yeah, yeah. So affirming about owning my messy, says Eva. Yes, congratulations for doing that. Keep doing that. And so let me know if you have any questions about overcoming camera shyness. I covered the basics. Um, but if you have any specific questions about being visible as a light worker, about overcoming your camera shyness, maybe specific questions you may have about that, let me know in the comments below, and I will share that with you. And but yeah, so just to do a recap in the meantime, as you guys are typing, is today's topic was, especially if you're just joining us now, 5 ways to overcome camera shyness as an empowered light worker. And I covered why light workers get to be visible in a bigger way right now. I covered the mindset shift required to show up and be consistent. I talked about my own visibility story, how I got started, and where I'm at now, and then also the 5 ways to overcome that camera shyness, and even some of the tools that I use to show up in service. So the camera, so yeah, and I just actually use just my phone. And I wish I could show you my Logitech camera, but Logitech makes really great cameras that can mount very easily onto your laptop or to your desktop. I use mine on my desktop, and so that's why I get a really good picture for my Facebook, or for videos that I record. But I do also a lot of recording on my iPhone, so it provides a really clear picture, and the sound quality is also good, right? And in terms of sound, I don't actually use a mic in general. I do have a mic that's close to me, but I'm not going to even attempt to stretch it out over here and show you. But it's I have a mic also for when I do podcasts or interviews and things like that, because I do get on those occasionally. And eventually I'll probably be having my own podcast too. So I'm all prepped, right? Monica shares, I have a little bit doubt to showing in videos like somebody will misuse that video. Yeah, that's just more of like a concern, right? And that's also a fear, right? Because if you're going to allow that to influence whether or not you show up, then that's a concern, right? Because if you're more concerned about not showing up so people will not, hypothetically misuse your video, then that's really just more of you just not wanting to really show up in service, right? And that's not coming from a place of judgment. That's really just the mechanism of what's happening underneath that thought. And is it possible that people take my videos? It's possible, but the truth is that I don't lead with that. I don't lead with that. I lead with service and what I get to experience, create, and impact. And for someone whose lives I can make a difference in, that's my priority. I don't sit there and think, well, if I make this video, someone might misuse it, right? Because then I just wouldn't show up. how effective, right? How effective to have that fear. And I see the question here or the comment here. I've been a perfectionist my whole life, and it's a big leap to overcome this. Plus, my voice, I need some serious training to speak out. You do not need any training to speak. If you have a voice and you can use it, that's all you need is to actually use it, right? You don't need training, any of that. That's really nonsense. So again, that's just another fearful excuse, right, to not show up in a big way. There's nothing wrong with your voice as long as you can speak and as long as the sound carries. You don't need anything else. You just need your voice. You just need you. And you just need to connect with the intention of whatever it is you're about to share. Okay. And I'm seeing someone just popped in and asking, are you on your phone now? Yes. Yes, I'm on the phone right now. For those on Instagram, I'm on my iPhone right now that is perched on my tripod. Jaleesa, hey there, Jaleesa. She says, wow, Margarita, you are the obsidian knife. Yes, I have one of those too. And yes, I'm kind of that, right? Because I just cut through the crap. Um, so yes. Any other questions about visibility, not just in general and about your life? Okay, so it looks like that's all in terms of questions. Unless anyone's about to pop something in, because sometimes that happens where like I'm like wrapping things up and the question didn't show up because they were too busy typing it in, right? So suffice to say, this is a really juicy topic for a lot of light workers, right? Because it is scary to be visible, but here's the thing, it gets less scary with practice. And you don't get better by just preparing, right? Because that's another fallacy that some light workers say is, oh, I'll prepare and then I'll be ready. That's another way of procrastinating, right? You don't need to prepare, as long as you've got a way so people can record you, or should I say you record yourself, whether it be your phone or something on your laptop or your desktop computer. And as long as you've got some good lighting there, whether it be natural lighting or a ring light like what I use, that's fine, right? You don't need to be perfect and you don't need to prepare. I mean, you may want to like have an intention around the post you're about to share. As an example, like I always have a topic for my Rise Up with Margarita shows, and I do make some notes for myself so that I stay on point, but they're all bullet points, and then I just riff. And that's because I already know my content, but I didn't get there because I was confident from the get-go. I got there from just doing it. And that's how you get clarity. Just with overcoming your camera shyness, with overcoming how you get to speak up in the world, and also just in general, that's how you get to apply yourself, right? Is because it's not about being perfect. Like I'm sure not perfect, right? I'm just showing up in leadership and in service, and that's my priority. And yeah, you're going to want to check out the replay. No, I'm actually not wearing obsidian. This is actually sugilite. It's an amulet of sugilite and tanzanite. Good question here. Can we use just one social media platform like TikTok, or should we use as many platforms and ways like podcasts too? You can use different, social media platforms. But if you're just starting out, I recommend only choosing one. Choose one only. And the reason why is because if you do all the things from the get-go, you're going to be overwhelmed really fast. Like me, I focus mostly on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. I also have a Twitter account. I'm also on LinkedIn. What else am I on? I'm on other things too. But Instagram is really my main one. And that's because I have more fun on Instagram. I have fun making reels, I have fun making the videos, and that's what should be your criteria. You should choose the one that you have the most fun on. That's your scientific criteria for which one you should choose. whichever is the most fun, because whatever is the most fun for you, you will stick with and stay consistent. Okay. So that's why I personally choose Instagram. For you, you could choose TikTok, though with TikTok, it's a lot harder to create relationships, which is why you might notice that a lot of people refer them to their Instagram accounts. If you're on TikTok, when you're on TikTok, you're actually referring them to your Instagram accounts sometimes because you can't really cultivate relationships on TikTok. And that's why you won't see a lot of, you see some people on, you see a lot of people on TikTok, and a lot of them do go viral, but you actually create the relationships when you're on something like Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or something like that. So that's why you kind of want to choose something where you can actually create relationships on. Or if you really enjoy TikTok, then you can have your TikTok thing and just refer them in your bio to, a platform where you can actually talk to them. So I hope that helps. So this is actually relevant. Someone's asking about dealing with negative comments or bad vibes. And someone's also saying, yes, Instagram is very helpful for them. So, and I can actually speak into this because this is directly connected to you being visible and overcoming your camera shyness as an empowered light worker, because negative comments, you're going to get that. The more visible you are, the more you're going to be seen and heard. And with that comes more people from all walks of life finding you, right? And not all of them are going to be your people. Like some of them will, and they're going to be totally down with what you're sharing. And you're going to be very excited to connect and communicate with them. But you will get people, especially if you have polarizing content, like I sometimes do, and it is what it is, right? Like I'm not going to not post something because people don't like it, right? If they don't like it, they can leave. And that's a choice, right? You're not responsible. And this is part of what you get to do also as an empowered empath. You get to not take on other people's crap, so if someone says, wow, I can't believe you're doing that, or wow, you're a terrible person, or whatever opinion they've got on you, that's why you need to heal your stuff first and be accepting of who you are and what you're creating first, and lead with service. Because if you lead with service, when you get comments like that with people saying you're full of yourself or whatever, you know who you are, right? You're not full of yourself. If you're more concerned about the dialogue of being viral and being famous and all that stuff, then I mean, sure, that can be a goal, but if that's your goal as a light worker, then you're kind of opening yourself up for that kind of stuff, right? So make sure that you're aligned and in integrity first with yourself, and so that way you can really show up and be like, and here's the other thing about negative comments. Anyone who's doing more than you is not going to criticize you and troll you and say nasty things to you on social media. It doesn't work that way. People, and I'm going to say that one more time, people who are doing more than you and who are making more impact than you are never going to leave you those kinds of negative comments. They just won't. Which then makes you want to think, well, then who is the source of this criticism? Right? Because if it's very easy, to troll somebody and leave nasty comments from the comfort behind the keyboard, right? That's really easy. That's a coward's way of being confrontational, right? But it's another way to actually say to that person's face, which they probably wouldn't do, right? Because people who leave those kinds of trolling comments, they don't have the wherewithal or the integrity to actually be in your face and say the same thing. And most likely, if they're that person leaving a troll negative comment, then you get to see, oh, well, that person's not even putting themselves on the line, so it's not even a relevant comment, right? So moving on, right? Because I can't tell you how many negative comments I've gotten, because now I'm like beyond 10K followers on Instagram. And so, that then opens up like more visibility and So yeah, I do get negative comments sometimes where people don't agree with me on certain things. And a lot of times that's due to them being kind of like stuck in the old paradigm. And that's fine too, because that's a choice that they get to make if they want to stay there or, get out of it and be in the new paradigm. But that's their choice, right? And so if someone has something nasty, then you can choose to do whatever you want with that. There's so many ways to deal with that. You can first of all assess where that's coming from, where the source of that criticism is coming from. And I would say 98% of the time, or 99.95% of the time even, these comments are coming from people who are not doing more than you. And these are comments coming from people who are not putting themselves out on the line like you are, right? So is their comment relevant? Probably not. So that said, you can either, block them and delete them, or you can respond and inform them and educate them if you feel that's something appropriate. Or like someone that I follow does sometimes is that they play with them. Like if they leave some weird comment, right? They kind of make up like a comment just to mess with them a little bit, right? And I mean that's a choice too. So I mean it's really up to you how what is aligned, and not everything is like across the board, right? Like it's usually a case by case basis. So I hope that helps. Yeah, someone's quoting, "We do not care," right? Like there's this, like this trending audio that says "We do not care," right? On the reels. So someone is sharing that. Yeah. So you're welcome. You're welcome. So I hope that helped you, everyone. Um, you know, it is scary to go visible, to be seen and heard, but it's something you are completely capable of, and not only capable of, but to go to the next level of. So if you're ready, like I'm going to put out a challenge to you. If you are not yet on video, my challenge to you is that before the week is over, it's Monday now, you do some short little video. That could be like an IG story that disappears in 24 hours. It could be like a 1 to 3 minute video that you upload, that you keep it short and sweet. It could be something very, very tiny. Just start, right? If you are already doing video, I am challenging you to go to the next level of what that would look like for you. So that could look like creating a weekly show, and every time that you accept a challenge, it should be something that is stretchy and scary, but it excites you at the same time. That's when you know that it's an aligned thing, right? And also sometimes you're just scared, right? That doesn't mean it's not aligned. It just means that, maybe that's something you get to do, right? So just because you're fearful and scared of something doesn't mean that it's a sign from the universe to not do it. Usually it's an invitation to see what you're capable of. So that's my challenge to you is, if you're already doing some video, what is the next step of that would stretch you and be uncomfortable? And if that looks like, I don't know, doing some training or doing a webinar or, having a weekly show, whatever would be stretchy for you, do that. And especially if it scares you, because that's how you transmute that. Yeah, someone's already saying, eek. Yes, like it's scary, but I promise you, after the first time you do it, you're like, oh, you're done. Then you can actually say, yes, I've done a video, right? And then just keep practicing. And you keep practicing and you keep better. You keep getting better by practicing. You keep getting clearer on your message by practicing. And you practice by doing it over and doing it over and showing up again and again and again. So I hope you accept my challenge. And if you want to, you can tag me on it and be like, hey, I did it, right? So I love that. Ooh, I like a challenge. Scary, but doing it. Awesome. Yeah, and that's the attitude you want to have, right? Scary, but I'm going to do it. Because when you rise up to transmute your fears, that's when you grow. You don't grow in your little bubble, in your comfort zone. That creates zero impact. Zero. None. Okay? But if you start doing all the little things and you just start showing up and it's scary, but you just keep doing it, you grow and you grow and you grow and you grow. And the more you grow, the more you can assist, the more you can create better impact and bigger impact. So I hope that served you. And if you're just joining us now, I see some folks just popping on now. We just covered the topic 5 ways to overcome camera shyness as an empowered light worker here on the Rise Up with Margarita show. So you're going to want to check out the replay, which will be available in just a moment. And in the meantime, if you are a light worker who is between striving, which means that you know your purpose, you're connected to your heart, you're, committed to making an impact, and also you're an empowered light worker, meaning that you're already doing it now, but you're ready to go to the next level. If you are already connected to your purpose and you are already connected to your heart and you are ready for what's next, and you're ready for that, committed to that, ready to be supported in that, then I invite you to DM me what your powerful light worker purpose is. And then we can have a conversation about what's next for you and see if there's any way I can be of support to you. Okay? And that's my invitation to you. If you're curious about working with me, or you want to learn more about what that could look like, DM me your powerful light worker purpose. Make sure you're connected to your purpose and your heart before you do that, right? Because if you're still not connected to your purpose, then make sure you connect with that first. Okay? So have a wonderful week, everyone. Much love, light, and power to you.